Hey guys, Akil here. If you frequent the podcast, then you know that a common theme to success is productivity and efficiency. And that's exactly why I chose Spotify for podcasters. Not only can I schedule, edit, and monetize from a single place, but I can also record from my phone, just in case one of those random ideas pops into my head and I got to get it out before I forget about it. Spotify for podcasters also helps me take the conversation to you guys, the fans, by allowing me to do video, share polls, and ask questions, which is, well, what keeps the show rolling. So if you're looking for the easiest way to streamline the podcasting process and maybe, put a few extra bucks in your pocket at the end of each month, check out Spotify for podcasters. I use it. I love it. I recommend it. Hey guys, Akil Stokes here. In today's episode of the Trading Coach Podcast, we're going to talk about personal finances and how to get organized with keeping track of what you're spending. Now, you guys have been spending a lot of time listening to the Trading Coach Podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe on whatever podcasting platform you listen to this on. Also, if you're able to leave me a rating and a review, that is the best way that you can support the show. So I was having a conversation today with a trader over on our Tier 1 trading platform. By the way, if you guys want to hop on the platform, feel free, www.tier1trading.com, and enjoy some daily trading talk with a network of traders that actually know what you're doing, since trading is often a lonely game and we don't have any friends to talk to it about. But he was talking a little bit about the journey of trading, and he said, he just started his journey of financial money management. And do we have any tips on good Excel sheets regarding finance tracking? And this comment brought a smile to my heart, because I was just having a conversation earlier with a trader who was talking about we're going through the whole back and forth about Akil, how much money do I need to trade, and blah, 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 blah. And I don't have enough money, and I want to make this much money this quickly because I only have a little bit. And we were having that conversation about how you probably shouldn't be a trader until you have your personal finances in order, meaning that until you have a grasp on your spending habits, until you've gotten yourself out of debt, trading is going to be a bad idea, because you're always going to look at trading as a gambling method. I've been watching this show recently called Beef, and I think I talked about this in another Trading Coach podcast, unless it's one of the 50 that just went missing because my hard drive broke down. Not bitter. But there was a guy on there who invested like $20,000. He was broke, but got a loan for $20,000, invested it in crypto because his brother had made a couple thousand the day before, so he thought it was his quick fix to becoming wealthy and rich, and then lost it all right away, right? And if you have that hunger, as Jason Grayson would say, that animal brain where you're just in survival mode and you need to get out of a bad situation, you're not going to be very good in the markets, because I can tell you what, trading is a game of patience and discipline. Trading is a game of being able to survive enough bad to see the glory of the good. And if you have that mindset going in, you're never going to be able to survive the bad. You're either going to blow everything recklessly, or you're going to keep bouncing around to this and that when you don't get that instant gratification in the form of monetary returns. So we always say that you want to approach trading in a pressure-free environment where you're at a place in your life where you're not struggling, meaning you have a place to sleep, right? Food is on the table, right? Maybe you're not out of debt, right? Yeah, everyone has a little bit of debt, but you're not in a situation where you're living check to check and struggling. So first things first is you want to get your personal finances in order. That way you can approach trading with a pressure-free, state of mind. So he was asking about, any tips? I'm getting on this journey of financial money management. Any tips on good Excel spreadsheets regarding finance tracking? He heard in a previous episode of the Trading Coach Podcast. I love when they reference my podcast. It's awesome. He heard that I mentioned Mint as a good tool for money management in one of them. And Mint is like one of those online tracking things that, you put your information into and it kind of, consolidates everything that you're doing and does the financial tracking for you. He said, I heard about me mentioning one of those, but the problem is he's not a fan of companies knowing his financial status. And that was one of the big issues when I went to Mint. I am very paranoid of everything. So when you do something like a Mint, and I'm sure there's other ones out there that are the same, you've got to give them bank passwords. You've got to give them credit card stuff, right? Because they got to be able to access these accounts so they can see what you're spending. And we know that internet security is interesting to say the least. So I can certainly see someone being kind of nervous about giving them all that information, and I was I was too at the time. So he also said that he's not a big Excel fan, so he doesn't really know how to create one on his own, and he was asking for any tips. And I said, hey, what I like best, and I'm old school, right? I like good old-fashioned pen and paper. Now, I do use an Excel spreadsheet now because I have a bad habit of losing all my journals, but I'm a fan of keeping a notebook. I keep a few notebooks with me all the time. I have a pen or a number 2 pencil, right? And I just write it down. I write it down. And I think the thing is that a lot of us think we need to have these fancy things, right? We don't need to be fancy. We just need to be effective. And whether it's pen and paper, whether it's a note section inside your smartphone, whether it's an Excel spreadsheet on your computer, right? It doesn't really take that much to track what we need to track. You don't need to be a coder. Trust me, I'm the furthest away from the coder. I have 2 skills on Excel. One is I can sum up the columns, meaning if I put everything in a column, I can add them all together so I know what they are. And I can make a graph. I can't make every graph, but I can make a few graphs, and that is about it. So, I do the bare bones minimum, but it's enough to do what I need to do, because as far as my personal finance, it's just tracking what I'm spending, putting them in categories, and just being able to have that visual, because the visual is half the battle. It's very similar to trading and journaling. A lot of traders I speak to are down on journaling and trading. We're like, Akil, why do I need the journal? Why do I need to track my trades, right? I can just wait for my broker statement at the end of the month, or I can go on my broker's platform and it gives me all the stats. And yes, that is true, right? Most brokers, all brokers, should give you access to a panel or a website where you can see all of your stats and give you all the shiny numbers that you desire. All brokers should be giving you a monthly statement, some a weekly and a daily statement every time you place a trade, perhaps, telling you what you did. But the problem with that is that when we're not doing it ourselves, we tend not to give it as much attention, right? We tend to just let it kind of operate in the background, and we don't really kind of track it. So we're not really in the moment, right? We're not really in the moment, if that makes sense. I'll give you kind of a good example. Like, imagine that you are a sports fan. Imagine like you're someone that's doing daily fantasy. I used to do daily fantasy with my friends, just kind of in a play around league and whatnot. And I remember I stopped because it was a horrible time investment. But when I go something, I go for it. I'm competitive, right? So I remember doing daily fantasy. And I was doing like NFL, and my good buddy, he's not a trader, but I bounced, this was my old gambling buddy. He I used to work for the IRS. He's a numbers dude, right? So we have a lot of discussions about trading and financial markets, and he does investments as well, but he's one of the few that I can speak to about that, and his brain capacity is amazing. He probably should be a trader, but he's a little bit too, trading psychology would bury him, to be honest with you. He's not good on that side. But the point is, we used to do daily fantasy, and instead of just like randomly picking players for our teams, we do a lot of research, right? We would dig into all the box scores. We would dig into all the stats. We would essentially know every single team that's playing and every single detail about them, because that's the information needed to make the best decision on who to pick. Now, when I first started, I went in like that, and I was pretty successful, right? However, once I got deeper into trading, really once I had kids and I decided like, hey, I can't invest 2 hours a day looking up NBA stats or whatever like that, I would still dibble and dabble a little bit, but my performance was worse. And why? Because I wasn't in the know. I would make my judgments based off assumptions. Well, I think this team is supposed to be good, right? Therefore, I'll bet on them, right? For you guys looking at the, let's say you're looking at the EPL table right now. I don't really want to go to it because, Everton is in relegation zone right now. But if you look at the EPL table, right, you got teams like, okay, Newcastle is sitting third. If you know anything about Newcastle over the last couple of years, you're not paying attention maybe to this year or last year, you would think they were a bottom team. You have teams like Aston Villa in seventh, right behind Tottenham, right? you wouldn't think they were up there. If someone mentioned like, hey, Chelsea, how are they doing? You're not paying attention on a regular basis. Oh, Chelsea, probably somewhere around the top 4, right? Champions League, right? No, they're sitting in 12th, right? The fact is, as soon as you stop paying attention and you stop paying attention to the new information, you kind of lose your feel for what's happening. And the same thing happens in your trading as far as performance, as far as making mistakes, as far as market conditions. The same things happens in your personal finance where a little stuff starts slipping through the cracks where when you're on it on a regular basis, I know I'm spending this, I know I'm doing that, I know I'm doing this. When you stop paying attention, all of a sudden these little things creep in. Oh, I spent this, but it was only in your mind one time, so it's not that big of a difference. But then it becomes a habit. Or you notice that you're spending more on gas on a regular basis or this, right? You lose a feel for what's going on, and then you lose a feel for kind of the tight grip that you want to have around your personal finances. So it's very important, I think, to track this stuff personally, because it puts you on ground zero, I guess, for lack of a better term, right? It puts you in the fray, in the mix with what's going on. And when you're in the mix, you can see what's really happening instead of just guessing at what's happening. Now, the hard part, and this is where trading affected my personal finances, is how do you do it? When I went through this era, right? Again, when I stopped, I was trying to tighten up my budget. I didn't trust all the internet people out there, so I was on this budget. I think I spoke about this in the Trading Coach podcast before years ago, where I went back to straight cash, right? I went back to straight cash. I didn't want to use credit cards for whatever reason. Either, I had this fundamental thing about paying interest or something, or it was the people were probably hacking credit cards back then and I got scared. But I decided that I'm going to get on this budget. I'm going to go straight cash, right? So each month I'm going to go to the bank. I'm going to take out this much. I'm going to flat, lay it out. Food, flat, lay it out. Entertainment, flat, lay it out, whatever I'm doing, right? I had boxes of cash. I don't do that anymore. For you guys that think about the home invasion, don't do that. There's no box. You're not going to get anything from my house. But at the time, I just had boxes of cash with labels on them for different things. And obviously, when you're using cash, right, looking at credit card statements or using stuff like Mint isn't going to help because it can't trace cash. Maybe that's why I was using, because I didn't want to be traced with whatever I was doing. Right? IRS, don't listen. Just kidding, of course. But I got into the habit of, I started wanting to update my spreadsheet, whatever like that, tracking every single day. And what happened is, because I was doing it so much, it got irritating. It got annoying because it just became a hassle, right? At the same time, I've had years where I said, hey, I'm not going to track anything and I'm just going to add it up at the end of the year, kind of like with taxes. And I don't know if you ever waited to the end of the year to do all your taxes and stuff like that. It's a hassle. It's horrible because it's a big time investment. And again, you don't have that feel. So something that trading taught me is to kind of be consistent with how you're tracking, but kind of find that sweet spot where it's like, hey, I'm tracking weekly, or hey, I'm tracking monthly, or hey, I'm tracking quarterly. That way it's enough for you to kind of keep that feel for what's going on, but not too far that you lose that feel and you let too many things slip through the cracks. So good advice for obviously trading is to get your personal finances in order, but understand that you don't need to do anything fancy, especially if you're someone that doesn't like using the internet, or you don't want to pay for an accountant to do it for you, right? All it takes is a pen and a piece of paper. All it takes is an Excel spreadsheet, and all it takes is you being deliberate and really dedicated to consistently tracking it on a regular basis. And then of course, making whatever changes you need to make to kind of tighten your grip on your personal finances. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Again, it's not necessarily trading related, but it kind of is. And if you noticed over the years, right, trading and real life, they kind of blend together. One helps one, the other helps the other, and it's one of those type of relationships. So if you ever have any questions about anything trading related or anything life related as well, don't be shy. Hit me up, right? I'm all over social media at Akil Stokes RTM. I love to help. I love to respond. I love to share if it's a topic that I think will help many others as well. So at Akil Stokes RTM, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, somewhere else as well. And until next time, plan your trade, trade your plan. Take care.